Tonight, Tropical Storm Alex probably peaking as it nears the island of Bermuda. Tropical storm warnings are currently in effect for the island. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for June 6th. Well, the Atlantic season, of course, begun in the last 24 hours with the formation of Tropical Storm Alex after nearly 3 days as a potential tropical cyclone. It did it, and it's really doing pretty well for what was expected, practically overperforming as we speak. 28 storms is now the final count so far of what has occurred. 92 is the average for the year. It's day 6 of Atlantic hurricane season, and we have Tropical Storm Alex now with 70-mile-an-hour winds, with a pressure of 986 millibars as confirmed by recon. So that puts it just under hurricane strength in an interesting way to start the season. It's the strongest A-named storm since 2016 in the Atlantic. In the Eastern Pacific, there is nothing going on day 23, with nothing expected in the next 5 days. Of course, some of the models are hinting that we could be seeing something in the far-out range, although as of right now, that is not looking to be the case within the near future. Looking at the Western Pacific, it's the same picture here. Nothing ever since the dissipation of 94W's complete and utter failure. I like to keep making fun of it because that was probably the most useless invest that I have seen so far in 2022. Maybe there were some more useless invests, but looking at 94W specifically, there was really no reason it should have been designated. In the North Indian Ocean, you can see what's going on here. It's pretty quiet, although we do have Invest 93S in the southwestern Indian Ocean. That still has a 10% chance of formation as it moves westward. We're not really expecting anything much, given the fact that it is past the southwestern Indian Ocean season, the entire southern hemisphere for that matter. So with that said, you can see Alex here as it continued to strengthen throughout today. A lot of people trying to call it extratropical when there is literally absolutely no reason to be calling it such. Regardless, it will be turning extratropical in the next day or two, probably within the next 36 to 48 hours at the latest. So we're lucky to be starting that transition anyway soon. In the Eastern Pacific, you can see what's going on here. It's pretty quiet, not much of anything. A little bit of disturbances towards the bottom of your screen there, but not really anything that's going to be splitting off and becoming a southern storm anytime soon here. So conditions still looking generally unfavorable for the basin at this time. Pretty quiet start to the season for right now, with the exception of Agatha, of course. Agatha did start the season off a bit strong. In the Western Pacific, you can see what's going on here. Not much of anything, just a bit of frontal boundaries continuing to cross out. There's been rumors that one of these may split off and become one of those monsoonal messes of storm. It's looking rather unlikely at this point, but of course we never know what's going to happen, and I hope I don't jinx it this time like I did with 94W. In the North Indian Ocean, you can see what's going on. It's a monsoonal mess in the Bay of Bengal. The Arabian Sea looking a little bit dry, although there has been a disturbance that's been trying to extend its reach into there. And now you can see Alex. It's a very shared cyclone, with much of its convection being to the north and east of the center. Otherwise, it's just an exposed low-level circulation, and for the most part there. But it's managed to strengthen. Recon has confirmed 70-mile-an-hour winds, and despite its not completely tropical appearance, definitely a tropical storm. In the Eastern Pacific, here are the sea surface temperatures. You can see it's 27 to 28 for the most part. Although, of course, it's a little bit cooler where Agatha trapped. The 29s that we had there are practically entirely gone. The Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean are looking around 27 to 28. Same thing for the Western Atlantic, and same thing for the main developed region. The subtropics are around 25 to 26. It looks like as of right now, Alex is starting to tap into those cooler waters. It's around 26 where Alex presently is at this time. Sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic and Eastern Pacific are, of course, going to warm as we get closer to the peak season here. Raven Sea is looking around 30 degrees Celsius for a good chunk of it. Bay of Bengal is also around 28 to 29. A little bit of 30 degrees in the northern part of it. Philippines and much of the Western Pacific is starting to see more of those 30 degrees Celsius temperatures. Otherwise, the rest of the basin is around 28 to 29. And the southern hemisphere, it's around 27 to 26. Although it looks like it's 26 around where 93 is currently. And it's probably going to be staying in those as it's supposed to maintain that generally westward motion. Conditions are regardless unfavorable for the most part anyways. As you can see, we still have that weak La Nina into place as of right now. The Atlantic is looking warmer than average, especially where Alex is tracking over right now. The temperatures there are much warmer than usual. Western Pacific is above average, and the North Indian Ocean is looking average to slightly below average. Of course, it's going to be a trend that continues for much of the season. On this day in 2012, we had Tropical Storm Kuina, which formed in the southwestern Indian Ocean of all places. It's one of the latest forming storms in the southern hemisphere season to be tracked by the MFR, and it's interestingly in a similar place to where 93S is now. Of course, 93S hasn't expected to form, but Kuina managed to form as seen by the fact it's only on this day here. But there really wasn't much more relevancy by the fact that it was a very late storm for the southern hemisphere. Nothing else was active on this day. You can find more of our on this day products powered by Cyclone History on the bottom bar below. That brings us over to the next names. In the Atlantic, we're looking out for Bonnie, followed by everyone's favorite meme of a storm, Colin, after that. In the Eastern Pacific, the next two names here are Blas and Celia. And in the Central Pacific, the chances of Honey happening are about the same as the chances of Wyoming actually becoming relevant. Moving on over into the Western Pacific, the next name is Chaba, followed by Irie. And in the North Indian Ocean, the next name here is Citrang, followed by... And these two names we're probably not going to be seeing, given the fact that we are, of course, past the first peak of the season. Moving on over into the Southern Hemisphere, the next name in the Australian region is Darian. In the southwestern Indian Ocean, we're looking out for Lama, and in the South Pacific, we're looking out for Holly. We'll be back for another tropical weather bulletin tomorrow night.